In Springfield, Missouri, a man named Jesse Hugh was brought into police custody after fatally shooting his wife Tanya along with her parents named Linda and Ron, as he felt that Tanya's parents were taking over his home and felt disrespected about them overstaying their welcome. And even after telling them multiple times that it was time for them to leave, they repeatedly refused to do so, causing Jesse to eventually snap and take his frustrations out not only on Tanya's parents, but her as well, before vividly explaining his motives to police.
I shot my wife and her mom and her stepdad. Cold-blooded murder this afternoon.
Okay.
Shot them each twice in the head.
Okay. Well, that's about as straightforward as it gets. I'll go ahead and ask you, why'd you do that, Jesse?
I lost my temper.
Sure. Okay.
Wife had back surgery last week. Her mom and Ron live in a RV.
Okay.
They decided that they were coming to Missouri to support Tanya.
Sure.
In her recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get along with her mom, and never been hadn't been outward friction there, but I stayed away from them. Don't want them in my life. I don't want to be in their life,
Right.
And so what ended up happening is her mom moved in on me. And Ron would just come and show up at the house whenever and just walk right in through the door. Now, bearing in mind, that's my place and I'm the one that pays the bill on it.
Right.
So I felt pretty disrespected.
It sounds like they would just show up and invite themselves.
Well, see, when Tanya and I got together years ago, her mom and Ron pulled this shit before, where they just show up, kind of unannounced and stay.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. I don't think you do that. I wouldn't do that to my own family.
Sure.
That's no social grace there at all. You understand what I'm saying? You don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it again, showed up. And, bearing in mind, my wife has just had lower back surgery, and I didn't want to make it hard for her. Her mom was basically just there for moral support, I guess, because she wasn't able to physically help her get up or get down or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so there was no indication they were going to leave at all.
Really?
And I had talked to Tanya more than once that I wasn't happy about the situation.
Mm-hmm. So tell me how those conversations went.
Well, I told her, I said, I'm not happy about this. I ain't going to live like this.
Mm-hmm.
I said, they need to go. I am here. I offered to cook her anything she wanted. Her mom, like I said, wasn't able to physically help her do anything.
Yeah.
And like I said, I felt intruded upon. I felt disrespected. And, I pay the fucking bill on that place. So that gives me some say. And Tanya just basically told me, basically she was just going to do what she wanted to do. And, the way I felt just didn't matter.
So kind of disregarded your feelings.
Exactly.
We're going to stay here anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I let it go for several days knowing that my wife is hurt and,
So tonight, when this incident happened, specifically, what led up to this?
Well, I had gone out and visited some friends and went and had lunch and stuff.
Okay.
And when I come home, they were all gone. And I looked around the house and it kind of looked to me like Linda may have picked up her stuff, like maybe she got the hint and left.
Right, okay.
And I was actually upstairs talking to my dad about the whole situation. And anyway, while I was up there, I see him roll in. And, I went down there and I walked in and they're all sitting there in the kitchen.
Your missus downstairs.
Downstairs. I walked in and I said, Ron and Linda, you need to leave. And my wife said, they're not going anywhere. I'm half owner of this place. They stay here as long as they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I went outside, I got my gun, I walked back in, I shot them all in the head. Then I shot them all in the head again to make sure they were down.
Okay. So where was Ron at when you shot him?
Sitting in my chair at the table.
Sitting in your chair at the table.
And you know, when I told them they needed to leave, you know, they didn't make a move to get up. They looked at her and decided they were staying.
They just ignored you.
And that's when I decided, all right then, because, you know, I warned her earlier in the week and I told her I was very unhappy about this. And I said, you know, you're going to make me go off. Mm-hmm. And if you do, this is on you.
Yeah. And
this is what she got for it. She made me go off. And now there's 3 fucking dead people. It was over and under a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't start off with a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it ended up.
Yeah. Who was the first one of the 3 that you shot?
Ron.
You shot Ron. He was in your chair. Did he see you coming, or?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He started to try. First, he looked at her, and he started to turn his head to me, and by then, I got him. And Linda was all fucking surprised that I just shot Ron, and I shot her in the fucking head.
Did either one?
And then I turned and I shot her in the head.
Yeah.
You know, I warned them. I fucking told them. I guess she decided to call my bluff, so here we are.
Did any of them get anything out verbally?
No, nothing more than a little bit of a squeal. Like I said, it was all over real quick.
So they didn't have time to even say anything?
I shot them all 3 in the head, and then I shot him in the head again because I thought I seen him twitch, and I heard her gurgle. I heard Linda gurgle a little bit, so I went and put another one into her, and then I come back around to where Tanya was sitting, and I shot her again in the head to make sure she was done. They did not take me serious, so this is the consequence of that. Now, I've killed them and ruined the lives of, you know, their family, and I've ruined you know, my life. I don't need a lawyer. I know what I did, and I know what I did was wrong, but the truth of the matter is I couldn't stop myself from doing it. It happened so fucking fast, I couldn't stop myself from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
After confessing to the killings during the interrogation, it didn't take much for Jesse to be charged and found guilty of 3 counts of murder before eventually being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In Key Biscayne, Florida, a girls' gymnastics instructor named Oscar Olay was accused by one of his students of telling her that he wanted to perform an inappropriate sexual act on her, and this would eventually lead to him being brought into police custody and questioned. But during this interrogation, Olay would refute the claims and claim that he would make jokes with the girls, but would never cross the line. But after messages in his phone would be searched, it would be found that Olay was attempting to and had engaged in multiple inappropriate relationships with multiple underage girls, which included buying them alcohol and marijuana, as well as sending them nude photos of himself and asking for some in return, which made his claim that he never made the inappropriate comment increasingly hard for police and the judge to believe.
I spoke to my employees, and I have girls working for me, and I'm like, okay, tell me the truth. Don't hold back, and that's why I make sure all my employees tell me the truth. Like, please, don't lie. Oh, say it. At any moment, have you heard me? And I said it in the word. And like I said, I apologize to them. Sorry for the language, but you ever heard me say, quiero comer tu porque lo tienen grande? And any of my students were like, no. Okay, you remember this? You remember? Again, I'm not gonna say her name. And they're like, yes. Okay, the brother was accusing me of this. All of my employees looked at me with the eyes of baffled. One thing I do tell kids, like, hey, I'm gonna bite you, but what I do is tickle them. And I tickle them here or in the stomach. Parents have heard me say that. I've been in front of them just playing around with the kid.
Do you remember like specific incidents? Like, were saying that to her off the top of your head, or could you have said it to a group that she was in at any point?
No, I don't. I wish I could tell you, but I don't.
But you just say it generally.
Yeah.
While you're coaching.
While I'm coaching, like if in gymnastics, if you're not fully tight, then the skill doesn't come out. So there's moments where, let's say, this is their leg or the side of the leg. You go like this, tight, tight, because they have to tighten up. The reason why, the tighter you are, the easier the skill comes out. And as a coach, you want to coach up to a certain extent, then later on you can take a step back and just watch. Like, there you go, point your toes, stay tight. And doing this is like just patting your legs. Tight, come on.
Aside from those type of touches, do you remember ever tickling this particular child?
Tickling her?
Yeah.
Yeah, me and her, the mom even saw me multiple times tickle her in person.
The tickling and the other stuff, is that part of like standard training of gymnastic coaching,
No.
or is that something that you think you do because you're animated, as you described?
I do it because I'm animated, and at the same time I do it because it's built a good reputation, not reputation, good rapport or a good vibe with the parents and kids, in the sense of like, oh, Coach Oscar is serious, but funny.
At any point, did you ever get the sense that she was uncomfortable with your interactions, or did she ever make any comments to you that she was uncomfortable?
No. If they're leaning forward, like too forward, you put chest in, like this. There's moments where like, it's harder. I always tell myself, and I've had conversations with my employees and other coaches, like sometimes it's harder as a male coach to try to build that rapport with the kids and parents when you're working at that with women's gymnastics.
Olay was eventually found guilty of 6 felony counts, all related to his inappropriate relationships with minors, and currently remains in jail with no bond as he awaits trial. In Norton Shores, Michigan, a 15-year-old autistic boy named Timothy Ferguson was tortured to death by his own mother named Shonda and his older brother named Paul for no good reason. And during the days of torture, Paul and his mother would purposely deprive Timothy of food and sleep, force him to sit in below freezing ice baths, force feed him hot sauce, and physically assault him until he would eventually pass away from the neglect and abuse, weighing only 69 pounds at the time of his passing, leading to Paul eventually being interrogated by police and attempting to explain doing the unthinkable to his own brother.
Bad that we weren't neglecting him, and even if that's if it somehow ended up like that, it was never intentional.
Right. Well, what you're saying, I mean, if we talk, right, there's all these things where you're like, she didn't want it to seem like this. She didn't want it to seem like this. She didn't want it to seem like this. Did you know that it all seems like that, right?
Yes, I know.
It does. And he clearly was neglected because he died from it, right? The reality is that he was. That's why we're here talking today. So he was very much neglected. And the fact that, she had asked you to put hot sauce on his private parts.
She asked, but I never did.
You never did that?
No.
Okay. And she had asked you to put hot sauce directly into his mouth. Did you do that?
Yes.
She told you what to say? It's okay. She told you what to say? Because why? Did she tell you why? Because it'll look bad for you guys?
It's not just that. We loved him.
Can I ask you this, like straight up? You keep saying love. Do you feel like this was love? That he's dead now because he couldn't eat food? Does that feel like love to you?
No.
He's dead because he couldn't eat.
No.
And I don't know anybody that thinks that's love. What I think's happening is your mom's convinced you that she's this perfect person, and she's asking you to do all these things that are literally killing your brother.
I know she's not perfect.
How is that love? How is love ice baths? How is love handcuffing? And how is love restricting movement? And how is love hot sauce in the mouth and only eating bread with? What if you only got to eat bread? How would you feel? What if you only got to eat bread with hot sauce? Would you eat?
No.
She didn't care. You can say it if you want. She starved him to death because he wouldn't stop taking food. Well, maybe he's taking food because he wants to live. Have you ever thought about that?
Yes.
Maybe he's stealing food so that he can survive. He's dead because he didn't get food. He knows that. Well, that's not anybody's fault but your mother's. And you can try to take some of the blame if you want, but it's her fault because every single time I see a message in here, it's her telling you what to do. And she put you right in the middle of this. She put you right in the middle of this where it looks like some of the stuff's your idea. And it actually looks like in some of these things that you kind of enjoy it.
I've told you everything that I have. I don't want to live a life where I regret the fact that I hid somehow, something, and I've told you everything I know.
How do you feel about living a life where you hid that your brother wasn't eating from society, that you hid that your brother was dying? How do you feel about that?
I hate myself, okay? If I could take his place right now, if I could give him back his life, I'd do it in a dadgum heartbeat.
She didn't want him around anymore because he was too much of a problem. You know that's the truth. You can look back at it and see that, can't you? She didn't want him around anymore because he was too much work. That's the truth. And the second you start to believe that and understand that, then I think that's the time you can move forward in this case. Until you believe that, until you understand that, you're never moving forward from this. This isn't an accident. This didn't just happen. Your mom knew exactly what was happening to him, that he was wasting away. You saw it, didn't you? You saw it happening right in front of you. And this is criminal. This is a crime. Did your brother deserve to die?
No.
Should he be dead right now?
No.
Is he dead by the choices of others?
Yeah.
Who made those choices? Who made the choices for him to be dead right now?
After both Shonda and Paul were arrested and charged, Paul, who was 21 at the time, was sentenced to 30 years in prison, while Shonda was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for torturing, neglecting, and ultimately killing her own son.